entertainment, news, and politics. It's all right here with Michelle Meow.
Welcome back to Swirl, your A through Z, covering the LGBT, LMNOP, and everyone in between show. I'm Michelle Meow, your host. Like us on Facebook, search Swirl Radio, or follow us on Twitter at Swirl Radio, and we're also available to you on our website at swirlradio.com. We're speaking with Hudson Taylor, the executive director and founder of Athlete Ally, about all the amazing things that he has done. Hudson, before we went on break, you were talking about Athlete Ally and how you've helped, people who are athletes in sports and colleges and college campuses. But we also had heard about Kenneth Farid, who is an NBA player who's become a member. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so over the past couple months, we've been fortunate enough to really tap into the professional ranks. A few months ago, we had Brendan Badillo from the Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens, which I'm sorry, I know that's a sore subject. Chris Cluey from the Minnesota Vikings, Scott Padilla from the Cleveland Browns, and Connor Barland from the Houston Texans, all NFL players that have signed on with Athlete Ally. And then just this past week, Kenneth Farid, our first NBA player. He a few weeks ago made that amazing video about nobody can tell me I don't have two moms, because I do. It's been such a treat finding these athletes that are excited about speaking out and really passionate about these issues, because when a professional athlete leverages their voice and their platform, the message just carries so much further than anything that I could ever say or do. So, we've been working hard to help athletes like Kenneth get out there and talk about these issues, and I just really am looking forward to encouraging more athletes to sign on as Athlete Allies.
I think it's great that we have more athletes out there, especially pro athletes, who are speaking up about equality and how gay and lesbians should be treated equally, especially in sports. But what about transgender athletes? Do you feel that, are we there yet where we can have a conversation about that? We can play openly, and has the subject of transgender athletes been brought up even within Athlete Ally?
Yeah, so I try to make a point to say combating homophobia and transphobia whenever possible, because that's something that is marginalized and can so easily be forgotten. I'd also say that just recently, myself and Pat Griffin co-authored a LGBTQ resource guide for the NCAA, which they're going to hand out to coaches and administrators across the country. And this guidebook really is all-inclusive of not only transgender policies and things, talking points of how a coach can counsel their players if they want to transition, but also, really everything. What do you do if you have an athlete who's coming out? And so I think it's very important to talk about the transgender side of things, because it can definitely be forgotten. That being said, I think there's also a push and pull. My mission is to try to get the unlikely allies to take a stand, and even language like homophobia may not be what is actually the best word to use. I feel like sometimes it's heterosexism is the word that I should be using, but I just know that in a lot of locker rooms across this country, the message is going to be lost. And so I think it depends on who it is I'm talking to, but certainly we at Athlete Ally do our best to make sure that we talk about transgender issues, because it is a really important topic, and there are athletes out there who are competing right now who either have transitioned or want to transition.
Thank you so much for that, and thanks for addressing that beautifully. So earlier we brought up, two athlete superstars from the NBA, and then I wanted to bring up Chris Culver of the San Francisco 49ers, who before going to the Super Bowl had made some anti-gay comments, and he's now working with the Trevor Project. I'm not sure if you have reached out to him, or maybe the organization has. Have you?
We've reached out to the PR people for the 49ers and have made it definitely clear that we're here and ready and willing and able to do absolutely anything they want. So, we try to keep an open door policy. I think it can be really easy to demonize somebody who makes a mistake like that. I know that those comments were certainly incredibly offensive and hurtful for a lot of people out there. But we need to engage. We need to have a proactive and productive dialogue, and so we try really hard to work with as many people as possible. And certainly, we would love to engage Culliver and anybody else at the 49er. Headquarters who wants to address these issues.
Yeah. So if there was an athlete out there today, any professional athlete on your wish list who would call you up today and say, "I want to be an ally, I want to be a member," who would it be?
You put me on the spot there.
I did.
Truthfully, it would be some female athletes.
Female, yeah.
Yeah, some high-profile female athletes, because I think that is one voice in all this that is really missing. We have these football players that are taking the stand, not only for marriage equality, but working with Athlete Ally. And homophobia in women's sports is just as prevalent, if not worse. So I would love to get calls from maybe some high-profile college coaches, maybe some, professional tennis players or swimmers, Olympians. I mean, we need women to speak out as allies as well, and that's one thing that I definitely would like to see more of with Athlete Ally.
Cool. Well, so now we've heard of all the great work that you've been doing, and we know that you're a superstar. Just a couple things we'd like to know about you, though, is that so you're married to a beautiful woman, but the rumor is, or I've heard now, that you changed your last name, or you did not take each other's last name for a reason. Is that true?
That is true. That is true. We, as I said earlier, I consider myself a feminist, and this is probably the one area that makes my parents most uncomfortable, but my wife and I both felt that her taking my last name or me taking hers, or a hyphenation or a combination of the two, was still speaking to a patrilineal naming system. My last name is my father's and my father's father. Her last name is her father and her father's father. So we really sat long and hard to try to think about how we could do this and make it equal in ours. And so we ended up just creating our own last name. And so personally, we go by Perifax, which is a Latin kind of thing we made up. Peri meaning equal or of the same, and fax meaning passion or flame. So it means with the same flame or with the same passion. So we're the Perifaxes.
That is so, so, so cool. The first I've ever heard anyway. So my last question to you then, are you guys planning on having children? And if so, do you think your kid will be an athlete?
So the first question is, I would obviously love to have, start a family, and I don't think that that's something we're looking at anytime soon. I think one thing that's also really opened us up is, we have so many amazing friends in the LGBT community that have adopted kids far later in life, and I think that that's really opened our eyes to the possibility of, we're not biologically bound. We can take our time. We can adopt a kid down the line, which is something I feel really comfortable with, and I hope I'm not not getting in trouble right now. No, but then on the sports side, I think athletics can teach some really important values, and as much as I loved winning and competing, the sense of camaraderie, the things that overcoming adversity are all things that sport can really teach and teach well. So I think I definitely hope that my kid or kids would participate in sport at some level.
Yeah. Well, Hudson, thank you so much for joining us here on Swirl and sharing your passion, your knowledge, and all that you do. I think it's amazing work.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
For those who are interested in supporting Athlete Ally, you can head to athleteally.org. Coming up, Mia Macy answers questions from the transgender community about Valentine's Day. And also, like I've been saying all week long, I have been a bad butch in my cat call. That's all coming up all right after the break.